Is your mending pile getting out of hand? Do you struggle to find the motivation to tackle it all? My guest this week, Jeanna Wigger, invented a challenge called the Winter of Care and Repair, and it might be just the push that you need to get on top of things. In this conversation, we talk about the fun and satisfaction that can be found through acts of repair, as well as the unique challenges and growth opportunities that come through completing a season-long personal project. You're going to love this one, so stick around a few minutes for that. Welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 15 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge Me Made May. But, like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate crisis and the way that my lifestyle contributes to it. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me in this journey. Are you doing all right today? My goodness, it's cold here at the moment. Obviously, we don't have the heating on during the day and working from home isn't particularly fun at the moment. I'm wearing pretty much all the knitwear I own with my dressing gown over the top as I record this. Anyways, I'm very excited to be able to report that the Christmas craft fair that I co-organised went really well at the weekend. There was a great mix of crafters and sellers in the fair part of it, and the fair floor was pretty good. The cafe area was really busy with people enjoying loads of French patisserie that my pal Cece makes, and we had some live music going on as well. I did sell a few things, not heaps, and I didn't make a lot of money, but I'm super happy that my daughter sold some of the beaded bracelets that she made. Now that the fair is over, I've been able to finish my husband's scrappy sweatshirt. It looks so good and he loves it. I've posted a picture of it on Instagram so you can take a look if you'd like to see for yourself how it turned out. And now I'm making some emergency mittens for myself and my son out of cut up bits of old knitwear. My beloved mittens that I wore for years and have mended repeatedly finally died, so I need to make myself some new ones. And my son immediately lost his at school on the first proper cold day, so I'm making him some more that I'll stitch name tags into. I'm also considering attaching them to a length of elastic that I can thread through his coat, you know, like mums in the 80s used to do. But my concern is that he'll manage to get caught up on things and stuff with the elastic. I might trial this over the weekend and monitor how it goes. The mittens I make are double layered, so literally the warmest mittens or gloves I've ever owned. I've made so many pairs at this point that I don't really love making them anymore, but they're so toasty that it's worth it. I always use cashmere for the inner layer. I've got a couple of moth-eaten cashmere jumpers that I'm slowly dissecting, so they're really soft on the inside. I actually mentioned this project in episode 113, the more sustainable gifts to make and buy. And in the show notes, I've added a link to a pattern that is very similar to the one that I use that I bought about 12 years ago. Sustainability wins and fails this week. A sustainability and budget win is that we've been freezer diving for a lot of dinners. I had all sorts of random bits and bobs in there. The meals have been a bit odd, but we've not had to spend a lot of money when money was a bit tight before we got paid this week. A kitchen-related sustainability fail has been having to bin a load of organic oranges that went mouldy before we got round to eating them. What I have learned from this is that I should have kept them in the fridge rather than in the fruit bowl in my kitchen. I just looked it up and apparently citrus fruit tends to only last a week or so at room temperature, but between 3 to 4 weeks in the fridge. So please learn from my mistake and keep your citrus fruits in the fridge unless you're planning on using them quickly. This week, I want to say a big thanks to Sarah and Gail for signing up to support the podcast via Patreon. You two are awesome. We've also lost a few patrons recently, and I just want to say thank you to those individuals for the support that you have given, and I really hope that you'll continue to listen to and enjoy the podcast. In the new year, there's going to be some cool new things for you to access via the Check Your Thread Patreon community. The current patrons are already in the loop about the first of the plans, and I can't wait for that to start up soon. If you'd like to be part of the crew that literally keeps this podcast afloat, then you can join up as well for any amount that you are able to contribute. A popular amount is the equivalent of the price of a cup of coffee each month, but if that's out of your current budget, you can sign up for just £1 a month, or $1 or €1. Well, you get the idea. The link to sign up is in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. Right, today's episode. I know I often say this, but I'm so excited about this one. We haven't talked about mending for a while on the podcast, And this challenge that Jeanna created could be a bit of a game changer for a lot of us when it comes to keeping the things we own in good condition for longer. The Winter of Care and Repair is in its 4th year now. It's going to be my first year participating, so have a think if it's a good idea for you too. Although the hashtag itself is visible on Instagram, you really don't have to have an Instagram account to participate. And if you're not sure if you have enough items in need of mending to keep you going, or you're not sure what to include, Jeanna sent me a super helpful guide of other activities that you could include in the challenge. I've added it in the show notes for this episode, so do go and check that out. And if this episode is wetting your whistle for repair, there are a bunch of mending related episodes that you could queue up after this one. There's episode 39 and 40 with the awesome mending legend Erin Lewis Fitzgerald. There's episodes 45 and 80 with our favourite mutual aid mender, Noah Hirsch. And there's my girl Shams Eldin Rogers talking about the importance of repair in episode 32. Plus, the Garmology podcast feed swap for episode 94 was with Snowdonia Repair, all about repairing outdoor gear. Plus, there's a bunch of solo ones, including episode 47, an intro to patching, and episode 68, visible versus invisible mending. So, have a good week. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Put your citrus fruit in the fridge. Have a good think about if the Winter of Care and Repair is for you, and enjoy. Hi Jeanna, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Zoe, thank you so much for having me.
I am quite obsessed with your backdrop now. Talk me through what I'm looking at.
You are looking at my tiny little sewing room in kind of the top of the stairwell to our upstairs patio. So what you are looking back there is things that inspire me, I guess. A wool blanket, some embroidery I did. The peacock is an old sampler that I dug out of my grandmother's sewing box and finished up a couple years ago.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, all sorts of little random things up there.
It looks very cute. It looks really cool. Right, so let's crack on. So I think I first heard of the Winter of Care and Repair challenge through regular guest Shams Eldin Rogers. So I made a note to track down the instigator and get in touch with them before the next round. So I found you.
Here we are.
And you have kindly agreed to come and chat with me for the podcast. So thank you so much. So let's start. Can you please tell us who you are, where you are, and what fills your days?
Right, so I'm Jeanna Wigger. On Instagram, you can find me as The People's Mending, and I'm currently, as I said, in my sewing room in our current home in Spain. I'm American, but I have the great good fortune right now to be kind of taking a long sabbatical of sorts to live in Spain. And I'm not working at the moment. So what fills my day is kind of adjusting to life here in a completely new country. I spend a lot of time outside with my husband and my dog. I spend a lot of time sewing, and I'm kind of working on finding my way, I guess, and building community as I get life going here.
That is so exciting. So where in Spain are you? What inspired this? It's very, very exciting.
Yeah. So we are in southern Spain, in a little town called San Fernando near Cadiz. And what brought us here is just kind of a series of events and combinations of privilege and past life decisions that kind of set us up to be able to basically sell most of our things in the States and take kind of an early temporary retirement and, try out living abroad for a while.
Amazing. And how's it going?
Good so far. It's been amazing here. It's been, we've met some really fascinating people. Yeah, just kind of being able to really slow down. Slow down in every way, between like figuring out the schedules, like siesta culture is real here.
When the bank's open.
Yeah, there's a holiday like every other week, and the grocery store's closed. And it lasts
from Wednesday to the next Monday.
Exactly, yes, the puentes, the bridges.
The puente!
So, but it's been good. I'm taking Spanish classes, of course, and just trying to I'm using sewing really as one of my, it's a huge lifelong interest of mine, so I'm kind of using that to build or find my community here.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's
I love that. So that's almost like an anchor for you to kind of reach out and branch out and establish yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So in terms of like sewing and its role in your life, what role does it have currently for you?
Currently I probably sew, if not every day, then most days in some way. I do everything from obviously mending, so quick repairs on things, to I almost always have a knitting project going as well. I like that to just kind of like chill out on the couch. And my husband is really also very interested in and kind of dedicated to sort of a reclaimed, repurposed, secondhand kind of lifestyle that's for both of us. So he is always coming to me with an idea for a project, something to make, or something that needs to be mended, and he will graciously wear mended clothes as long as it's not too too out there.
Sure.
But yeah, so that's kind of my personal sewing side, just something every day almost. And then also I've been volunteering with a wonderful British woman who I've met who lives near me, and she has a sewing class. So I volunteer to help out with that. Just as kind of an extra set of hands. And we're kind of trying to get like some little sewing gatherings, like monthly sewing gatherings going here. Hopefully bilingual, kind of community building and intercambio and exchange of sorts.
Brilliant. So for you, what came first? Is it making from scratch? Is it repairing? Like, can you tell me a bit about your relationship with those and how they interlink?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's all interconnected for me, and really sewing has been a part of my life longer than I can actually remember. My mom has documentation of my first sewing project that I did at 3.5 years old.
Whoa.
My first sewing project of my own. So she was always making things. My father was always making things. People in my extended family, everyone sewed and built houses and, quilting and crocheting and repairing things. So it's just, I kind of grew up in this idea that you just did things with your hands all the time.
Sure. All the time.
So I started out making, just whatever little bits and bobs, doll clothes or pillows when I was really little. And yeah, just kind of went on from there. But upcycling has always been a part of it. I grew up in rural Alaska, and so we didn't have a lot of access to new resources to make things with. So it was a lot of like old jeans and old clothes and old textiles that were kind of repurposed for whatever projects I wanted to do.
Right. So that really was your foundation of reusing what you had. It wasn't like something you came to later for like ethical reasons or anything.
No, I think I came back to it later, and I think probably since, what has it been? I guess, the last 20 years. It's been really like an integral day-to-day part of my life.
And your husband has a similar mindset.
He does, yeah. He does everything from welding to bike mechanics and carpentry. So, and his father was an antique salesperson. So he was, always like, has an interest and knowledge of old things, cool things. We both kind of like that, like, back in the day when things were made better, and you can repair them and they will last a long time.
Yeah. Well, that's really nice that you both have the same kind of philosophy, and you're not kind of butting up against someone who's regular. Like, can we not just get rid of it and buy a new one?
Yes. I feel so fortunate for that, and I think that we have kind of evolved even more together in.
Right, you've egged each other on.
Yes, exactly. No, he's really gets a lot of credit for pushing me in a good way to like, to repair a wetsuit or like some really complicated like gear or, camping gear or something like that. Where I'm like, I don't think I can do this. And he's like, no, I really think you can. And I give it a try. And, as of course, the more you do, the better you get. And so, yeah, it's been a good match in that way. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's get on to the winter of care and repair.
Yes.
So where did the initial seed of the idea come from? And how long has it been running as well?
So this is going to be the 4th year that I've done winter of care and repair. I started it in the winter of 2020, 2021, as we were all
That
winter, yes, that one, as we were all like realizing that we were going to be entering into winter, the first winter of the COVID pandemic. And I got the idea of a kind of seasonal project from Gretchen Rubin, who I know that you listen to. She often talks about
Gretchen Rubin.
She's the best.
Cool. I didn't know that she inspired it.
Yeah. So I think she talked about like her summer of.
Oh, yeah, she would do like a summer of Proust or something, wouldn't she? Yeah.
Yeah. So the winter before that, I did the winter of Tolkien, and I reread Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, which, and I have to say that was almost harder than the winter of care and repair, because that is a lot of reading in that. So that was this winter before I had done that seasonal project, and I liked it. I kind of liked the parameters being a little bit longer. It's really something that I have to like kind of commit to and really kind of dig into. So yeah, when winter season was rolling around, I don't know. I don't remember exactly the moment of inspiration, but those were kind of things that were sort of happening in my life and background. And then, of course, winter of care and repair, I just feel like has a nice ring to it. So
yeah, especially when everyone was feeling pretty awful.
Yes.
I like the care part of that as much as the repair.
Exactly. And care and repair for me, when I was kind of setting up the first parameters for it, was that I wanted to, so my original project was to, each day of the winter season between the winter solstice and the vernal equinox, was to fix, maintain, mend, or otherwise kind of care for, beyond like everyday maintenance, something in my home. Usually it was a garment, but I think during that season that we also like found this old piece of furniture that I refinished. So I included that. It was just something that that I was doing something kind of, again, with my hands every day.
Yeah, things that required a bit more intentionality than your standard stuff.
Yeah, cleaning the bathroom, that didn't count. Doing the dishes, that didn't count. I know, right?
So for you, it was things that, that maybe you'd be thinking about and putting off, or just took a bit more of a leap of investment.
Exactly. Yeah, something that was kind of beyond like the everyday. And I, go figure, when you do something that's beyond the scope of every day, when you turn around and do that every day, you get a lot of things done.
Okay, can I just pause you one sec? Yeah. Because I have a million questions, but I just want to ask, because you are a fan of Gretchen Rubin, what is your tendency?
I'm an obliger.
Are you?
Yes.
Oh, so you've created yourself an accountability parameter situation.
Yes, which is, I have these weird, because I'm kind of a classic obliger, I think, meaning that I'm not very good at doing things for myself, but if I have someone else, if I'm accountable to someone else, I'm really good at it, or I'm better at it. But there's been a couple times, I would say winter of care and repair is sort of an exception for me in terms of like being able to do something that I really want to do. Another example is, and this is related, but what kind of started my mending journey was, I think it was back in 2014, I read an article by Katrina Rodova, one of her original kind of Mending Matters, before that book, but this article about mending and clothing repair. I started mending, and then that year, going into 2014, I decided I didn't want to buy any new clothes for that whole year. It was like anything I needed was going to be secondhand. And that was my New Year's resolution for that year. And that was the first New Year's resolution that I'd ever stuck to. And it turned into kind of really a lifestyle piece for me, just a part of my ongoing life. So yeah, winter of care and repair, and then that New Year's resolution to only buy secondhand were the two things that I've set for myself that I've been able to stick to in terms of like bigger projects. Yeah.
Well, I'm an upholder tipping obliger, so I definitely can relate to your tendency. Yes. Something for somebody else definitely trumps anything for myself. That's why I think I'm definitely more of a tipping obliger. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so how do people participate, and what would you say are the benefits of taking part?
Yeah, so if you want to participate in Winter of Care and Repair, I have a hashtag set up on Instagram. This year, I haven't separated them out in the past year by year, but I think this year that I will. So you can follow Winter of Care and Repair 2023. And then the parameters for participation are really, I think they're really similar to your Me Made May challenge. This is something that I want to be meaningful for the individual who's participating.
Yeah, I definitely saw some parallels with that, like the way that you can set your own pledge and based on your own needs, your own requirements, your own situation. I really like that.
Yeah. And it's funny because I didn't know about Me Made May until I started listening to your podcast like earlier this year. And I've just like raced my way through.
When your hobby's mending, you've got a lot of time for listening.
Right, exactly. So I think we were kind of on parallel mindsets when we were kind of thinking this up. And I think for me, part of that goes back to my former life and my former career. I did kind of like parent coaching in a completely unrelated thing, kind of working with parents of children with developmental disabilities. And so, I come to learn, like, it's not really a great way to help people by just telling them, like, this is what you need to do and how you need to do it. So had a lot of training and kind of coaching related to that. And then when I developed Winter of Care and Repair, it was just for myself initially. And then I had some people reach out and say that, they were interested in what should they do. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? What about it kind of piqued your interest? What is lingering in the back of your mind that makes you think, ooh, this is something that I'm interested in? Yeah, if people want to participate, I encourage them to just kind of think about what stands out to them as something that they want to work towards in terms of mending, repairing. I have a pretty broad definition, pretty loose definition of what that might be, just to give some examples of kind of past pledges for myself.
Yes, please. Yes. Yeah, that would be really useful.
Yeah, so I, for myself, a repair that counts for a day might be, actually completing, starting and finishing a patch on a pair of jeans. It also might be a different day, that counts might just be like taking 5 stitches in like a sock that I'm darning, and that's it.
That could, I hate darning, so that for me would be like, yes, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm out.
Yeah. So I have it's just like pick up the thing and do 1 stitch. Okay, you've done it for the day, like, and I need for myself. I appreciate that flexibility. Some days I'm like, I'm able to have either the time, the mental bandwidth, the energy to spend several hours working on something, and you really get like stuck into it. And
I love how customizable it is based on your life, but based on how much time you've got. And you don't even know, like even at the beginning of the day, how busy that day is going to turn out either, do you?
Exactly. So I'll often have multiple projects running at the same time. So I found that that's to help me be successful with it, because it's 3 months long. Like, this is not just something that you're going to like, hustle through. Like, I think that, actually this reminds me, I was just listening to your episode yesterday where you're talking with Lena King, and what about like making your goals for sewing be sustainable for yourself in terms of like your energy and your time and your resources in all ways. And I think that is really important to think about if you do want to go into a challenge like this, because, you don't want to set that bar too high for yourself and then be discouraged.
Yeah, you're like, you could be like, I'm going to mend everything in my house. And it's like, oh, actually, wait, well, there's Christmas and we traveled and then I've got kids and no.
Exactly. So, kind of keep those things in mind. And I would say build in some safeguards. For me, that's important, because if I fizzle out or if I set the bar too high and I burn myself out, then, I'm not going to pick it up again. And my idea for this was something originally when I started, it was something that I could like really focus on and kind of give me a little bit of a purpose to make it through that first pandemic winter. So I think really it's really important that it's something that's kind of thoughtful, and your goal for it is thoughtful and realistic for yourself.
Yeah. Could you give me some examples of some goals that have been, or outlines that have been set by other people who've participated?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've had some people who just know that daily mending is not going to be right for them. So maybe they want to mend 1 thing per week. Some people have decided that they want to push themselves to learn a new skill. So one person wanted to focus on sock darning. Like she had this pile of socks. She wanted to work on them, but she hadn't, been getting to it. So this was kind of the opportunity to...
Sure, the little push.
Exactly. To try a new skill. Some people have kind of played around with the timeline a little bit. You'd mentioned Shams helping Roger earlier. So one year, I think it was last year actually, she, knowing that the holidays were going to be very busy for herself, she started her challenge on the last day of Kwanzaa, and then added those extra days to the back end of in March. So
Shams is such a classic upholder.
Oh my gosh, I know. She's such an amazing person.
So true.
So I would say that works. Like make it be your own.
I mean, does it have to be clothes? Can we repair other things?
I mean, I have. I've included painting the bathroom.
Cool.
One year during it was winter of 21-22. We were in the process of selling our home, and so there was house repair and updates, and all the things that you are going to get around to at some point. In terms of home maintenance. You suddenly
have to do them all.
And then you have to do them all right at the end. So there was no way that I had energy or time to unpack the sewing stuff during that. So yeah, I counted painting of the house and that kind of thing. So I think that if someone has, projects related to that, maybe you have a winter of self-care and repair, and you just like the idea that you want to try to kind of focus on yourself, things that kind of help you. I mean, this is quite just a time of, I don't know, the world where it just keeps getting kind of crazier and crazier and crazier. And maybe that's when someone hears care and repair, that's something that speaks to them, is they want to kind of just focus on themselves. I also understand that some people don't like really loosey-goosey, do what you will rules. So
just tell me what to do.
Tell me what to do. So if that is more of your inclination, my original intent was to work on repairing something every day during the winter season. And that's been kind of my project the last 3 years. So if someone's just tell me what to do.
Just tell me, yeah. This is so interesting because that's exactly like how Me Made May works. I'm always you can think about your goals, think about your individual needs, think about your wardrobe and your hopes for it. Or you could just wear one thing you've made every day.
Right.
There's the basic, usher you in, go.
Yep.
Brilliant. So I think it sounds like such a useful challenge, but also a really interesting one in terms of this kind of season, because most challenges, and especially ones that seem to kind of exist more or less via Instagram, they run for a calendar month often, don't they? So, but I love how yours doesn't do that. So what inspired that? Yeah, that kind of more extended kind of, because you can really get more involved and I guess develop throughout the season as well. I feel like a season in that way, it's got the potential to really make lasting effects, maybe habit changes and things like that.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I feel like a month, if you're dedicated to it, you can kind of push through and power through and then go back to business as usual.
Even if you're not really into it, it's it's just a month, come on.
Yeah, I could do anything for 30 days. So yeah, with the idea of it being a whole season, it's, I don't know what it is, 93 days or something like that. You do really have to dig in. And I think that for me, it not only did my skills develop a lot during that time, but I got a lot of stuff done. All that mending stuff that I was putting off, that's something else that would make its way to the top of the pile. Eventually I got down to the bottom of the pile where it was
that must be so satisfying.
Oh, it was, but it was also for whatever reason, there's that thing that you're always putting off. When you're committing to doing a project like this for that length of time, you get to those. I mean, if you're able to, life might throw other things at you, but if you are able to kind of stick with it and persevere, I think kind of having that level of commitment when you get towards the end and maybe it's hard, it kind of helps you sort of find that ability or power to push through and okay, I'm going to do this. There's definitely, for me, there's always been a real sense of accomplishment. I feel like I've kind of done something. I find that with every mend or every repair anyways, but getting to the end of the season, it's hard. It's a lot to ask of yourself to do for several months, but it does give, you hear about like habit research. So it's like 28 days, 30 days is enough to build a habit. I think that the 3 months really gives you time to actually integrate some of those things. And if nothing else, by the end of that time, you have all your mending supplies out and handy. You know where everything is. It's there. It's much easier. You probably have organized it in a way that's accessible to get to every day for that period of time. So going forwards, it's possibly easier when those other repairs do come up down the road.
Yeah. And how good would it be to get to the bottom of your mending pile?
Right.
Like, do you have a physical pile of stuff?
In the past, I have. Yes, I do have a physical mending pile. There's also the stuff that I kind of just in my brain keep track of that is in the mending pile, but it's actually in the closet because it's still like in day-to-day rotation. One thing that has been true for me during these projects is I'm much better when I know, it's winter of care and repair and I have to fix something today. Everything's handy. If I see something come out of the laundry that has like, there's a thin spot in these jeans, or there's like a little hole in this t-shirt, or this seam has kind of come undone, I'm much better about just like doing it right now. I mean, there's definitely repairs that are really involved and require a lot of problem solving and thinking and doing, but most of them, that like wobbly button, that will take 2 minutes to sew on. And when it counts for winter of care and repair, I'm like, I can do that right now.
Okay, so I feel like a lot of the time, a lot of garment sewers, they would always prefer, I think they would prefer to start an entire new project from scratch than mend an existing garment. Do you have any thoughts on that or ideas why that might be? Have you ever felt like that?
So I came to mending first and then got into garment sewing. And I had a lot of experience with hand sewing and embroidery and stuff before. So I don't think that is necessarily true for me. I'm also just like have a very stubborn sustainability mindset. So I'm like, of course, I'm not going to make or get something new. I want this thing to last as long as it can. So while for me that's not true, I definitely can understand this is the skill set that I have. This is what's easy. This is what's enjoyable for me. Like I can understand if you don't have that easy practice of mending and repair, because it's a slightly different way of thinking about things. I can definitely understand. Like it is easier for me to just make a new thing. It's easier for a lot of people to just buy a new thing. And that's really, I think that's part of this resurgence in mending and mending culture is we're not doing it because we have to, we're doing it because we choose to. And whether that is because of sustainability goals or textile waste goals, reducing your reliance on garments that might be ready-made, that were made in poor working conditions without consideration for the garment workers. There's a lot of reasons that people are making their own clothes, certainly. And I think that mending can kind of go hand in hand with that. Really, really well. I would also say that if you know how to make clothes, you're going to have a much easier time, like figuring out kind of that reverse engineering of like how to fix it. You know how fabric works. You know how.
And you've got all the stuff.
Exactly.
Like you've got scissors, you've got thread, you've got needles. Come on, guys.
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it.
I totally do understand, and I think it's often down to what people get from sewing is sometimes there's that kind of rush of like I call it new project energy. When you're like, it's the exciting beginning bit and you know that you don't know, but like in your mind, this project is like the perfect garment. It's going to be so fun to make and you're going to look amazing. And that is quite a rush and that can kind of carry you quite far, I think. And I think that as satisfying as having a garment back in your wardrobe is, it doesn't give you quite that vibe. It's a different vibe and it's an equally enjoyable vibe. But I think that the initial rush isn't there. But I think when people you know, however reluctant they feel to then sit down and mend something, they do realise that there is a rush at the end, which is like a huge amount of satisfaction and of having that thing back in your wardrobe, especially something you love and you rely on. It's so nice to have it back. And I think that that enjoyment is equal, but it's a delayed gratification. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I agree with that. I think that, I mean, and I definitely like, I make plenty of things from scratch, from new. And I totally get that. There's like the anticipation and like this yummy fabric that you can't wait to like dig into. And, you know, you don't really know how it's going to turn out, but you've got all this excitement building. And mending, it's like, well, I know what that was like before.
Yeah.
I do think that a way to kind of inject some novel creativity into mending is to try out like some visible mending and visible repairs. I mean, and I would say that for me, you know, with practice and as I've got better with mending and my skill set has broadened out, I find kind of that same rush with like the problem solving, like, okay, there's a hole in this sweater, for example, like how this
noticed that. It looks so good. I was like, I wonder if she's mended that. That's really cool.
Yeah. So this, I will describe it. I'm wearing a cream colored.
Oh, can I take a screenshot?
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll pop that in the show notes.
So wearing a cream colored cardigan, and it came to me full of like 40 moth holes. And so on this one, I looked at forever. It's got this like really intricate cable design and pattern on it.
It's really cozy as well.
So cozy. It's so cozy. So it has this really intricate cable design. And at first I thought, you know, I held on to it for a long time because I didn't know exactly how I wanted to repair it. So part of the whole process and what gives me so much satisfaction out of mending is kind of like that initial planning. Like, what am I going to do? What do I want this to look like? So I think about like, where am I going to wear it? What do I want? Or whoever is going to wear it, where are they going to wear it? What are they going to need to do with it? Is this a piece that I can kind of like bake into a little bit of a work of art? Can I get really creative with it? Or do I need to like keep it kind of in its original form? This sweater, I knew that I was not going to, I'm decent with darning, but I do not have the skills of like darning cables.
Right.
So,
yeah. Wow.
On this one, I just opted to do like an eyelet stitch around the holes, and then in coordinating but not matching all sorts of these. This was naturally dyed wool samples that I mended these with. I did like a lazy daisy embroidery stitch.
I was going to say, it looks like flowers.
Yeah, around them. So. And it's, you know, they're evenly dispersed enough that it kind of looks like maybe it's supposed to be there, but it's also not like, hi, I'm a giant patch, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I think that as you explore with mending and kind of get a variety of skills, because there's a lot of different ways to fix something. Just like there's a lot of different ways to make something. There's a lot of different ways to fix something. So I think that Winter of Care and Repair can be an excellent opportunity for people who do want to kind of push themselves a little bit to explore more with different styles of mending, with more different techniques. And because of that longer duration, it does kind of give you the opportunity to really get some of those good endorphins flowing when you're like, oh man, I had to puzzle this through. I had to creatively solve a problem. I got to use my hands. And now this thing is like back in my wardrobe. And I love it even more because if it's a ready-made garment, now you have kind of interacted with it. Is that kind of what is it, the IKEA effect? Like, if you build this furniture, it has more value to you. If you repaired your $5 t-shirt, now it has more value to you because you're participating with it.
It's like, there was wasn't there like a kind of ready-made cake batter that came out in the 50s or something, and you had to add in the US, and you had to add an egg. And it was like, they didn't actually need to do that. Mm-hmm. They could have put dried egg in the mix as well. You literally just like add water and chuck it in the oven. But they kind of made that element something that you did. Right. And it's like, I've made the cake.
When you do something, even if it's like something very simple.
But you've deepened your relationship with it, haven't you? Because you spent that time and and your physical hands have been involved in it in some way.
I'm going to segue into this, my mending proverb. So this is why I think that mending is so great. So my mending proverb is, if you mend a friend's garment and you clothe them for a day, if you teach a friend to mend and you empower them with a useful skill, you show respect to the people who made the clothes, engage them with a millennium-long practice of hand stitching, help them reduce textile waste and consumption of new textiles, and connect them with the process of garment making while you clothe them for a lifetime.
I love it.
Yeah, I think that, and I think that mending, if you're not a sewer already or sewist already, mending is a nice kind of entry point. I think it can be a pretty low barrier to entry to thinking like learning about fabric, learning about textiles, learning about clothing, and definitely like increasing that respect and awareness of like what goes into making clothes.
Yeah, because when you're getting all up in there, you can kind of get more of a sense of how it came to be. So do you personally prefer an invisible mend or a visible mend?
I say for me, it really depends on the garment and what its life is going to continue as. If it's something that I still, might need to wear kind of in a professional setting or a more formal situation, I do try to do like a subtle or less visible mend. But there are other times when I do opt for something more visible. And I think that kind of right now, some of my favorite mends are like what I would call like hidden in plain view mends. So I feel like this sweater is a good example of it.
I love this.
Yeah, like it kind of looks like it's supposed to be there, but it's not necessarily like, hi, I'm a giant patch and kind of this weird spot.
Yeah, because the stains and the holes, they never arrive at the bit where you could just, oh, look, it's perfect. I'm just going to embroider a flower. It looks
right
like
on your belly or something.
It's never there. It's somewhere silly.
So sometimes I will do like more mending, more repairs than the situation really calls for, just to make it look like it's meant to be there. So for example, like those tiny little holes that always show up like on the front of your t-shirts.
Yeah.
Rather than just having like a patch there or something or a darn there, I've cut out like several little round patches and kind of sewed several patches on kind of in a design that sort of, moves across the garment in a certain way. It kind of looks random, but like it's supposed to be there. So I use kind of the like polka dot patches, but I'll put more than I need just to make it look like it's kind of meant to be that way.
Sure. That reminds me of, Erin Lewis Fitzgerald, who wrote Modern Mending. She posted a garment, I think it was last year, on her Instagram, and it was like her toddler's jumper, and there'd been some funny discoloration, little spots due to like the laundry or something. And she'd added these little ties to it over the little dots, and they kind of looked like little sprinkles, like sprinkles of ice cream or something. And then she'd done like more, to make it look kind of more. And it was so wonderful. It was so effective. But it was just one simple technique, but just done a lot.
Yeah. And I think that can make it look a little bit more intentional than just, the one or two. So sometimes less is more, sometimes more is more. And it ends up working out well.
Brilliant. Okay, so so somebody wants to have a go at mending, but they're not sure where to start. Could you give them some advice?
I would say if you have something that's damaged, as long as it's not too precious, just try it, because the thing's already like broken or messed up in some way. You're probably not going to make it any worse. So just dive in, just try it. I would definitely look for, resources online, how to, there's tons of information out there. But I would look for like whatever the kind of garment it is, how to patch jeans, how to repair a sweater. So make sure that if you're looking for resources out there, that you're looking for the right thing. You're not going to repair jeans and a sweater in the same way. And then just try it.
YouTube is very helpful.
Very, very helpful. There's tons of information out there. So there's also businesses out there that will do mending. If someone if you want to have something repaired, but you don't have the skills, there's someone out there that, again, they should be they can and should be paid to do those things for you. And, those resources do exist as well in your community.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be either or. It could be that you tackle the wobbly buttons, but if the zip in your jeans goes and you're like, oh, I don't know about this, that could be the time to take it to the professional repair person.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's very much a both and, all of the above.
Yeah. You haven't failed because you chose not to do that project. Like, it's okay. Like, that garment can live. It doesn't have to be you that made it live longer,
Yes, exactly. And kind of keeping like your big picture in mind. Why do I want this garment to keep on going, being useful? Do I love it and it's wearing out and I just want it to be like it's cozy and comfy and I'm not going to wear it out of the house? Maybe that is the one that you practice on. But if it's something that is, like you said, the zip in your jeans goes out and they're your favorite jeans and you don't yet have like the ability to dismantle and replace that may be a good one to take somewhere. Or if it's something particularly precious, like, just know that it's not a one size fits all when it comes to mending and repair.
And sometimes also in terms of like the machinery you have, sometimes if it's something more robust, like a piece of outerwear or a bag or something, maybe you don't have the machinery to do that. Whereas there are people like, for example, I reposted an episode of the Garmology podcast that had the Snowdonia Repair Company in it, and they've got really robust industrial machinery for specifically repairing outdoor wear, even tents and sails and things like that. So, there are people that can help you do that if you don't have the machinery that's going to really make that happen.
Absolutely. And a lot of like shoe repair places will have those big burly machines to repair like bags, handles on leather things, or like those big, really thick, heavy duty canvas. And dry cleaners. Actually, I don't get things dry cleaned, but if I need, they also a lot of times do alterations.
Speaking of alterations, could alterations sit in the winter of care and repair?
Absolutely.
Speaking to somebody who's got a large pile of alterations literally there.
Yes, they absolutely could. They have in the past for me.
Cool. So I know that you previously taught some mending classes when you were in the US, haven't you? Do you have any stories or memories or anything that you can share from that experience?
Yeah. Honestly, teaching is one of my favorite things to do. And I love that moment when people kind of like realize like, oh my gosh, look at what I'm doing. And I've had, kind of the gamut of people bringing in something that's like, well, I don't really care about this, but, I figured it'd be a good thing to practice on. There's one woman in particular who brought in a sweater, and that was like, she's like, nah, low stakes. I don't really care. It goes either way. Well, she ended up leaving and loving it. She was so excited to wear the sweater because, again, like she hadn't made the sweater from the beginning, but now, she had participated with it in a different way and she really made it her own.
She had that new connection with it.
Exactly. And so, she loved it and she was so excited to like fix something else. I did some mending with my local mutual aid group back in the States as well. And there was one person who brought their jacket like 3 weeks in a row. It was like, we're going to kind of work on this together and sit there and talk. And they told me kind of at the end of this project, like, you're giving me my friend back.
Oh.
Like this jacket, this really warm winter jacket that they, relied on and wore literally as survival gear. And so I reconstructed both pockets and I fixed some other things in the lining. And it's like, you've given me my friend back. Like, this is my, I could go get a new jacket, but this is the jacket that I want. And those are the stories, like the opportunities for conversation. And I think, mending is not the only thing that can prompt these connections, but hearing people talk about remembering that their grandmother or that some family member used to like sit there with the darning basket, sit there with the mending basket. I spoke with, again, at the mutual aid group in my community, just, talking to this gentleman who I never would have probably crossed paths with otherwise, but he shared with me about when he was in prison and he learned to sew in prison and repaired his things. He made just like sandals and slippers out of like old sheets and cardboard, and just hearing like that for him, he shared with me, was really a way to have some agency in a situation where otherwise there's not a lot of personal agency or ability to like do something. And he had like kind of just taken it upon himself to be able to make something and then, you know, keep his possessions in working condition when he was in a situation that was just not usually, where he wouldn't usually have that ability. I mean, all the stories that people share, either the memories that it brings back or like building new memories going forward. Now I have this skill, and kind of being able to share that is just some of my favorite things about it.
Oh, amazing. Oh, awesome. Okay, so where can people sign up to the challenge, and where can people find you?
So on Instagram at The People's Mending, that's where you'll find information about the challenge. There will be a fresh hashtag up there for Winter of Care and Repair 2023. And I don't really have like an official sign up, but if you want kind of that accountability, please feel free to message me or comment on a post and say that you want to participate. And then if you are inclined, I'd love to see people's goals or projects. So if you want to share that in a post and just tag Winter of Care and Repair 2023, we'll see that and see how many people want to kind of share and either have that accountability or just that little nudge to try something that maybe they have either been waiting to get around to or putting off.
Well, I am fully going to be signing up for sure. For my first time. I have been trying to instigate, I'm sure you've heard me mention this before, but trying to instigate a kind of make one, mend one kind of rule, which includes alterations to my making generally. But I must admit, I've fallen off the wagon recently just because I'm making a lot of things for a craft fair at the moment. So I've fallen off the wagon a little bit with that. So I'm very excited to adopt this new challenge. I'm going to have a good think about what my pledge / outline / goals are, and by the time this podcast episode goes out, I will have nailed it, and I can do a little update in the introduction as well. And if anyone wants to tell me via Check Your Thread what your goals are as well, I would love to include those, maybe a few of those in the introduction as well. That would be really fun. So you can message me, Zoe, at checkyourthread.com, or find me on Instagram at checkyourthread as well, and we can be a community.
Yes. Zoe, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you and talk about this project. I've been a big fan of the podcast for a long time, so this is really exciting to be able to share with you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much and sharing a load of your stories and your rallying advice for those of us who are like, oh, brilliant. I'm really excited for this whole challenge. I think it's going to be just what a lot of us need. So thank you so much for the challenge and for talking to me today.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing Zoe at checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram at checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!